sacred places. Why do people stop at nothing to get there? They are ready to cover great distances, often walking hundreds of kilometers. What is so special about them? What kind of secret do they keep?
While traveling around different countries, it is interesting for me to study local customs and traditions. I always go to temples. Once in Turkey, I visited Hagia Sophia, the Hagia Sophia Grand Mosque. And then something happened. It is very difficult to describe in words, but I have not experienced anything like this in all the years of my travels. The question arose before me, what's so special about this place?
Hagia Sophia Cathedral in Istanbul has a complicated history. Like most temples, the cathedral stands on a hill. It has been destroyed, burned down, and rebuilt several times. A scan revealed a huge empty space underneath the cathedral. Various sources say that there are ancient cisterns for collecting water, as well as numerous tunnels under the cathedral. Today, Hagia Sophia is a significant place for two religions, Islam and Christianity. Before that, there was a church, which in its turn was built on the shrine of Artemis. And even before that, there was an ancient sanctuary.
It's strange why the same place was used for construction. After all, at that time, the population of the planet did not exceed 500 million, which means that there was plenty of free land. And nevertheless, in different periods, different religions built their temple on the same place. Perhaps it is a coincidence, but then why other temples are not rebuilt? Many have stood unchanged since the time they were built.
Hagia Sophia was built from special marble taken from the ruins of Solomon's temple, which was on the Mount Moriah. It is also called the Temple Mount.
It's interesting that Mount Moriah is also considered to be a place of power that attracts millions of people. So there must be something in common between Hagia Sophia and the Mount.
Jerusalem, Mount Moriah, which is also known as the Temple Mount. This place is a shrine to three religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Each religion has its own sacred building. They were built on the ruins of older temples. In the place of Solomon's temple, the second temple was raised by Herod. Later, the dome of the rock mosque was erected on the same place. It is the third most important Islamic shrine after Mecca and Medina. Next to this mosque, a tumble-down Christian basilica dedicated to the Virgin Mary was rebuilt and turned into the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The remaining fragment of the wall of Solomon's temple has become a holy site for the Judeans and is called the Wailing Wall.
No, after all, it seems that the overlapping of the temples is not an accident. Perhaps the answer is hidden in the very place where the temples are located. But what makes this place so important? What is the source of its power? Let's keep searching.
Temple Mount is noted in many religions. Not far from it is the Church of David and the Garden of Gethsemane. These mountains was indicated to Abraham for sacrifice of his son. It was also the place where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, performed the Ascension, Miraj, with the angel Jabrail, visiting the seven heavens and meeting the prophets. Much later, in 1099, on the same mountain there was the main church of the Templar Order, which was located in Al-Aqsa.
There we go. So the Templars were also attracted to this place. Why did they need it when they had so many temples in France? France, Chartres, right. The history of Chartres Cathedral is the same as that of Hagia Sophia. It has also been destroyed and rebuilt several times and was also built on the site of a sanctuary.
The history of Chartres go back to prehistoric times. when the Celtic tribe of Carnauts settled on that place. It was a time when the Druids and their sacred groves played an important role in people's lives. The Druids gathered on the hilltop of the town of Autricum, where their temple was located. After the Roman conquest, the town of Autricum was renamed into Carnuntum, and later Chartres. A church was built on the top of the hill at the site of the Druid temple. Today, Chartres Cathedral is located there. Under the pillars of the building, there are 14 artificial water channels. It is still a mystery how and why the water channels were laid at a depth of 37 meters, and why the central dome of the cathedral is also 37 meters above ground level.
Well, the puzzle is beginning to come together. There are many such places in different parts of the world where a layering of temples takes place.
The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was built and rebuilt many times. The site of the temple was not chosen by chance. In ancient times, it was a site of a sanctuary for the Carian goddess of fertility. France, Paris. Like many ancient Christian churches, the main cathedral of the French capital, Notre-Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris Cathedral, was built on the site of a pagan sanctuary, which appeared there in 432. The remains of its foundations were found under the Choir Isles. Armenia. Tatev Monastery was founded in the 9th century on the site of ancient pagan sanctuary, which was commonplace in these regions at that time. Russia. In the 19th century, there was some work carried out to dismantle the very first church in Moscow, the Church of the Nativity of John the Baptist, during which researchers came to the conclusion that this church was built exactly on the site of a pagan sanctuary. Germany, Cologne. The Basilica of St. Cunibert. The church has preserved the legend of how St. Cunibert turned a place of pagan worship into a site of Christian veneration. I am saying about a spring with healing water. For a long time there had been a pagan temple near it. The saint decided that it was unacceptable to have such an abomination next to a bishop's residence, so the sanctuary was destroyed. Georgia, Uplistsikhe. The cave town of Uplistsikhe is located on the left bank of the Kura River, about 10 kilometers from the village of Gori, and dates back to 1000 BC. Uplistsikhe was a prominent pagan center before Georgia adopted Christianity in the 4th century, and in the 9th century, a Christian brick basilica church was built right on the site of the former pagan temple of the sun.
Well, there is enough evidence to say with certainty that the layering of temples is a clearly traceable pattern. Water and voids can often be found beneath the lowest cultural layer.
Voids and water, as well as natural faults from a special geomagnetic zone of positive and negative energy. As a rule, ancient shrines were located in places with positive energy. Since ancient times, pagan sanctuaries have been regarded as sacred places, which from the very moment of the emergence of energy on earth, have carried the power and information provided by God. Depending on what people wanted, spiritual development or material wealth, the place saturated with either positive or negative energy respectively. And the accumulation of this or that energy had an effect on the surrounding space and on the inhabitants of the area. The space of the sanctuary could be marked out both by natural boundaries and by man-made boundaries, palisades, fences, small fireplaces, etc. Sometimes such a boundary could be simply a circle outlined by a walking stick of a priest.
It turns out that in ancient times, people did not need temples for group spiritual practices. A round-shaped space on an elevated site was enough.
Sanctuaries were of several types. Places of power were due to natural conditions, an area of positive energy was formed. And the places of power where serious spiritual work was conducted by people on the same place for a long time. In both cases, such places were only of help to those who wanted to develop spiritually. Later, with the loss of spiritual knowledge, these places began to be marked by a hedge, trees, or some kind of fence. As society evolved towards consumerism, this fence began to be made of expensive stone columns standing in a circle. A little later, they started to cover it with a roof. Eventually, this was all transformed into modern temples, where the attention is focused on temple decoration, magic, and the accumulation of material means, and not on the spiritual development of a person.